The growing immigration crisis at the Texas border and a looming debt ceiling showdown, the White House is putting out fires from all angles. Take a look at some of those there. There's also infrastructure markets we know are swinging a few different ways. So let's just break down some of what's going on. Joining us now to discuss is Bloomberg News' Joe Matthew in Washington for us, and also here in the studio with me, Bloomberg Opinion's Tim O'Brien. Tim, I want to start with you. We heard Bobby just say it might be too late for President Biden to show that he is not like the former President Trump. What's your take on that?
Well, I don't think it's ever too late for any president to show that they're different from Donald Trump. But Joe Biden is confronting some very serious headwinds right now. He's got major legislation that the Republicans have been very effective at trying to pick apart, and he's coming into that battle without his own political coalition being completely solid. They've got a very narrow majority in the House. They essentially are deadlocked in the Senate. And Biden has two members of his coalition who are throwing sand in the machinery, Manchin and Sinema. On top of it, I don't think the administration of late has done a good job of just blocking and tackling around some of their messaging. That doesn't mean that the battles are lost for them, but it does mean it's an uphill climb, especially with midterm elections coming along next year.
Absolutely. Joe, jump in here. When it comes to some of these issues, and we saw that full screen up on screen just a few minutes ago, where does Biden start? I mean, Tim laid out for us a lot of the issues that he's dealing with. I mean, where does he prioritize the issues?
Well, I think you have to start by looking at the calendar here. We're 9 days away from the government running out of money. So we're going to see some pretty fast work this week on Capitol Hill. And as Bloomberg has been reporting, there's going to be a vote today, in fact, on a bill to fund the government until December and avoid a shutdown. It's interesting, though, Democrats have decided to attach the debt ceiling to that legislation. And Republicans have been very consistent on saying they are not going to vote to move the debt ceiling, certainly not to raise it or even suspend it, as this particular language calls for. So it looks like we're going to see this bill pass through the House, and then it will die in the Senate, and Democrats are going to have to come up with another way to manage the debt ceiling, reminding everyone that that is not so much a forward-looking but a backward-looking mechanism here. It's paying off a credit card, money that's already been spent. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer want to extend that, suspend that is the better word to use, straight through the midterms. It would stay right where it is, suspended until December of 22. Now, let's say they get that done. We avoid the shutdown, which would take place in October. That's just literally days away. Then it's on to infrastructure. On Monday, the 27th, that was a promised vote that Nancy Pelosi made to her moderate Democrats, that they would vote on a bipartisan infrastructure bill that's already passed the Senate. It's unlikely that's going to happen, though, because the reconciliation bill, the big $3.5 trillion bill or so, that was the price tag targeted, has yet to even be complete. It's not even written, never mind getting a vote on this. And progressives say they won't vote for infrastructure until they get the reconciliation plan. So the president is really walking a tightrope here with his Democratic leaders. And there's likely going to be a couple of missteps along the way. Not a government shutdown, but a real debate about how they're going to handle this tax and spend plan and just how much money they can raise with taxes. Lawmakers want to go home and take credit for infrastructure. Progressive lawmakers want to take credit for things like child care and expansion of Medicaid and some of the other issues that we're looking at in that reconciliation bill. So we've got a lot of plates spinning in the air on both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue.
Absolutely. And Tim, so then how does the president unify not only his party, but the country? This is what he campaigned on.
Well, I think you unify the country around policy, but that's the challenge. If the Democrats can go into the midterms next year and say they've got an infrastructure bill pushed through, they've gotten a robust social spending bill pushed through, they've protected voting rights, they've tackled all of the intricacies of immigration reform, those are good campaign issues. But again, this is the issue. It's not clear they're going to be able to campaign on those. And I think, especially in the House, where you're seeing the Democrats sort of narrow their targets in terms of the races they want to put resources into, it suggests that they're starting to retreat a little bit into a more of a defensive crouch. And that doesn't speak well about what they're seeing in their own polling. And I think the only way to revive their fortunes in a landscape like that is to really get legislation through. And that's why what happens over the next several weeks is so crucial, not just for public policy making and the good of the country and the economy, but for their own fortunes as well.
Do you believe that Americans are paying attention to a lot of the back and forth that we are hearing from Pennsylvania Avenue, from Congress? Or is it, I mean, on Monday, a lot of people were talking about what was happening at the border, seeing the pictures there. I mean, what is it that people are truly paying attention to in terms of the political back and forth that we're seeing?
You know, voters don't pay attention to every single issue, but there are always salient issues they really care about. Jobs, they care about the things that get into their wallets. Healthcare matters to voters. I think for voters of color, what's happening with voting rights is a huge issue. It should matter to all voters, but I think it's especially vibrant for voters of color. And I think the immigration issue comes and goes in voters' minds when they see images on their TV screens of refugees being chased down on horseback. I think it horrifies them. Whether that translates into actual voting issues has always been up in the air, I think.